Right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to talk about something that I want to talk about here today. We're going to talk about where's it at? So, um, yeah, yeah. You see these three videos here, or these four videos here. All right. So, in these four videos, these four videos, you guys really need to watch them. Like, you guys really need to go watch those videos right there. Yeah. You guys really, I really suggest you guys go watch those videos. And the reason why I say you really should go watch them is because, um, man, there's a lot of shit in there that people don't tell you about. Yeah, just in this one by itself, with this one by itself, oh man, you guys will find out the truth behind the reason why we went to war in Iran and Iraq and Afghanistan and everything else. Remember when I've been telling you guys the 20-year war that we had with this fucking ass clown George W. fuck ass Bush. Now you guys remember when I said something about this bitch motherfucker right here, right? He's not the only president has done the same shit. He's actually the second president. And this shows how far back the corruption really goes into. People sit up in here and they state and they say, they sit up in here and they state and they say that they know the truth behind the 9/11. They know the truth behind why we was in the war and this and this and this for 20 goddamn years, and why thousands of our people died for this country just to be found out, to find out how corrupted and bullshit. Now, I really didn't pay attention to a bunch of these goddamn videos when they had them out back then, and I should have. And see, YouTube, and a bunch of other motherfucking ones want to say that I'm so fucked up in conspiracy and all this shit. Well, the problem with these four stories right here, uh, um, and everything, and I want you guys to go watch these sons of bitches. Like, really, go watch these sons of bitches, and they talk about it. Yeah, they talk about it like no bullshit. They talk about,
almost three of that working in
look. And the thing of it is these are CIA, these are the FBI, these are people that was in there for 20 or 30 years. Yeah, these guys was in there for 20 or 30 years, 15 years, 26 years. And to be honest, I'm gonna play the motherfucking video and I want people to watch it. And it's probably gonna get taken down, but I want you guys to watch it because this shows you how this shows you how far this goes back to the corruption of the Washington. Just watch. Remember that when fucking George W. Bush and his administration stood up there and kept claiming that Saddam Hussein had mass destruction of rockets that can fuck up the United States. You guys remember when they publicly came on the news every motherfucking day and said Saddam Hussein needs to be taken out. Saddam Hussein needs to be taken out in Iran. Did you guys know? Did you guys know? The only reason why we was actually in Iran is because we wanted to get rid of Saddam Hussein. Come to find out, did you guys even know? Did you guys even know? All those people that just showed up on this video before this right here, all those people worked for the CIA. And they're all coming clean of what really took place in the George Bush administration and the whole fucking CIA bullshit of behind why we was in Iran, Iraq, Pakistan, and all why we was in there. And there's 3 other videos right behind that one as well. But if you guys go watch these videos for yourself and everything, and you pay attention, listen to how many fucking cocksucking motherfuckers in the White House claimed that there was mass destruction weapons. When people, the people that you see right there before all this gets to it, they're coming out and letting you know 20 years they investigated Iran and Hustam and Hussein and all them motherfuckers over there and everything else, saying that there was massive weapons and massive destruction and all this. Come to find out, in all reality, with all their investigations, with all their tactics of the CIA sneaking in to different bases of Iran and all of them over there and shit, not once did they ever find any proof of mass destruction weapons to ever go to war for 20 fucking years in Iran or Iraq or Pakistan or any of those motherfucking places that we was over there for 20 years. These CIA agents came out on here and stated that. There's one particularly that's going to be doing a lot of talking in here. He's going to do a lot of talking in here, and he's going to tell you a lot of shit that actually took place. Now the crazy thing about it, is they mentioned that we was over there fighting over there in the war for the oil and because of 9/11. Did you guys know that we went to war on September 12, 2001 and was there for 20 motherfucking years over bullshit that they never even had? Terrorism wasn't even a fucking word until 9/11. Did you guys know that? Terrorism in the dictionary, Wikipedia and WikiLinks and on fucking the internet, terrorism wasn't even a word until the government came up with terrorism when 9/11 happened. Did you guys know that? I didn't know that. But it wasn't a word until terrorism wasn't a word until 9/11. I didn't know that Iran, Pakistan, and all them over there didn't even have the nukes and the mass destruction bombs that they claimed that the government, George W. cocksucking Bush, said that there was. Not only that motherfucker, But he got other cabinet members in the White House to say that there's mass destruction. And you'll see them. There's a black lady claiming there's a mass destruction. Dick Cheney that they keep talking about all the time. That's still working for the White House. He's been in there for decades. That motherfucker is corrupted. Um, they talk about what's his name, Schumacher or whatever the fuck his name is. That's in there. That's in the White House, too. And a bunch of other shit. But yeah, this video and a bunch of other videos you guys ought to watch. Yeah, I'll default that so you guys. Here, let me see. You guys should watch. You guys should watch this video. Why the U.S. invaded Baghdad. And you guys ought to watch this video. I gotta finish watching that one. But this one right here is what caught my attention. Yeah, this video here is what caught my attention.
And according to the...
They didn't have... Iran and Iraq didn't even have the money nor the capability and the knowledge to even invent mustard gas that they claimed that they had, or any other dirty bombs that they claimed, or any of that bullshit that they claim. All this motherfucker said out of his motherfucking mouth says all these different types of bombs and all these other different types of mass destruction weapons that he talks about that comes out of his fucking mouth. Out of his mouth, Iran and Iraq, Pakistan never even had them. And that was proof. When they did their investigation, when the CIA did their investigation and went over there before the war and all that shit that we did for 20 goddamn years, and they spied on them for years and years and years and decades. This cocksucking two-faced traitor ass motherfucker right here is the reason why we went to war in the goddamn first place for fucking 20 goddamn years. He and his bitch ass daddy, George W. Bush, bitch made motherfucking two-faced coward ass bitch right here. This motherfucker is the reason why we was behind, or the reason why we went to fucking war in 20 years. This motherfucker talk about mustard gas. Iran, Iraq, Pakistan never even heard of mustard gas. This motherfucker talk about dirty bombs and mass destruction bombs and facilities that they're supposedly building over there in Iran and Iraq and all of them. They wasn't even building those buildings. They didn't even have the knowledge to even create these dirty bombs that this motherfucker says that they made, and that was the reason why we went to war. And then if you guys remember when this dumb son of a bitch right here claimed that Solomon bin Laden and the other one said that they was best friends in Iran and Iraq and Pakistan. They said Hussein and bin Laden was both friends. They was both buddies. Did you guys know that they was actually enemies to each other? Did you guys know that one of them tried to blow up the other one? The other one had put out multiple assassination hits to kill one of them. If they're so fucking friends, why are they trying to kill each other? But this motherfucker right here, this two-faced ass coward little bitch right here, is gonna sit up in here and say that they was that bin Laden and Hussein Saddam Hussein was great buddies. That they was two peas in a pod. No, they wasn't. They was enemies. One was trying to run his country like he was supposed to, and keep the fucking bad people out, while the other one was trying to bring the drugs and the guns and the suicide and all the bullshit into one's country, and didn't want it. And that's what happened. But this motherfucker and his little fucking little sheeps that he's got behind him all sat there and said that we went to war in Iran and Iraq and Afghanistan and Baghdad and all these other places because they had mass destruction weapons. They didn't have nothing. They didn't have none of those motherfucking weapons. They didn't know what mustard gas was that this bitch motherfucker claims that they was making facilities for. And they didn't know about dirty bombs or none of this other bullshit that he claims. Look, listen to this stupid son of a bitch. Look, listen to this stupid son of a bitch. Just listen. They didn't have the technology, nor did they have ever had the weaponry to even do the shit that he's talking about. They didn't even know what fucking mustard gas was.
And continuing ties to terrorist organizations.
Terrorist wasn't even a fucking word until 2001.
And they're all
listen, this guy right here, Mel Goodman, 20 years senior in the CIA, and all these people that are talking, worked for the CIA for more than 20-something motherfucking years. Okay? And all these people are coming out and telling you the truth, what happened, and why we was in the fucking war that we was in. Now, who you gonna believe? A fucking president that is two-faced and coward and makes the political party lie to national people, tell people lies about another country that they never had? And then they said, what did George W. Bush say? The intelligence agency in British Columbia, the British, was the one that gave them the resources or whatever to tell the United States that Iran, Iraq, Pakistan, Baghdad, and all of them had mustard gas and all these other chemical facilities and had all this other shit. It's funny how when you go over there, when you go to war, you know, at the beginning of the war, they didn't find one building that had any trace of any of that shit. They had tanks and they had planes and they had guns and ammunition and C4 and all that shit, yeah. You know, but they didn't have no motherfucking facilities of mass destruction bombs. They didn't have no facilities of mass destruction mustard gas or this kind of bomb or that kind of bomb. They didn't even have the facilities nor the money or the technology to build this shit or make this shit. But the United States did, because the United States has all kinds of bombs. United States makes all kinds of different shit. And like I keep saying, if you watch these motherfucking videos of that are being posted out on YouTube and on social media now, because now everything is being declassified. If you watch all these videos, and these are real fucking CIA agents, these are real fucking people that are telling you your government is lying to you. These are all whistleblowers that literally sitting here on the video telling you how long they spent in the CIA and what they was in there as. And this guy right here, he's going to tell you a lot of shit because he's... What did he say? There's not a lot of good targets in Afghanistan, but there's a lot of targets in Iraq. So they wanted to invade Iran and Baghdad For what purpose? So they can get to Iraq, because Iraq had all the fucking enemies and all the shit that they claim. I mean, listen, they literally talk about how instead of invading the one that they wanted to invade, they wanted to invade the other ones to get to cut off the main one that is giving the supplies and weapons to the other countries like Baghdad and Iran and all these other places. So they want to cut them off so they couldn't fight back, so they can get to Iraq. That was their main target. Listen, just listen to it. So they tricked Congress into giving them the funds so we can go to a war that was no cause, and we did not need to be there, right? I mean, every fucking video I've ever done, didn't I ever say we never needed to be in Iraq? We never needed to be in the war? And that it was all planned by George W. Bush, and the 9/11 was behind George W. Bush, and the 2 trillion gold bars that was underneath the Twin Towers was planned by George W. Bush. And why was all these fucking leaders from other countries in New York City 6 months prior, before 9/11? Come on. Look at the bullshit. I mean, look at the bullshit. Tell me 9/11 isn't a fucking conspiracy, that the government wasn't in on it. I wish somebody would tell me the motherfucking George W. Bush and his goddamn bitch ass daddy wasn't in that motherfucking shit. Please, I wish a motherfucker would, because when you look at these fucking videos right here, these motherfucking CIA agents that's been there for 20 years before 9/11 and during 9/11 sat here and told you we had no reason to be over there for 20 years. They didn't have mass destruction weapons. That George W. Bush, this bitch motherfucker, that black woman, and that other motherfucker dude get on there and say they had mass destruction. Watch. This motherfucker, the black woman before, this next other motherfucker, and there are at least 6 of them, at least 5 or 6 of them going to say mass destruction, and that was the reason why. Just listen, and you wonder why I'm the way I am with the government, why I don't give a fuck what the motherfucking government says. I mean, look at the bullshit. Look, put it together. You just heard out of these CIA agents that worked for the United States for more than 20 motherfucking years, sat here and told you that we didn't have to go to war. There was no purpose. Now you put 2 to 2 together. Why was the leaders of all the other countries in the United States in New York City 6 months prior to 9/11? Why was the buildings, the Twin Towers that was built in 1991 and 1993? Yeah, that's right. They was built in 1991 and 1993. Why was they was under construction in the middle of the night 3 months prior to 9/11? They only worked on the buildings at nighttime 3 months prior. They had a meeting with all the other leaders 6 months prior in New York City in a meeting room somewhere that was actually close by the Twin Towers. And then you see this video of talking about we didn't actually need to be in there. We actually didn't need to go to war. Just listen. His effort. Cheney, that's his fucking name. Fucking Cheney, that's his fucking name. And that dick-sucking motherfucker, what did he say? They didn't have the capability in the first Gulf War. They didn't have it in the capability of the second war. They didn't have it in the one with the Iran and Iraq one. And what did he say? And they don't have the capability of getting it in the future. Oh my God, this is 2025. And I'm fucking glad that all these videos are being able to be on YouTube. And everything else is being documents and everything else coming out here. Because all the shit that I've been saying since I was fucking, 10, 11, 12 years old. Been telling motherfuckers the government is crooked, the government is corrupted, the government ain't for you. I've been saying this shit since I was a fucking teenage kid, man. And in 2025, everything I've ever talked about, everything I said about, everything I mentioned about of other countries don't have the capabilities of doing this or doing that, and are not trying to fight the United States. If all these countries have this capability, then why don't fucking they do something to the United States? Really? Oh, that's right. They don't. They don't have the capability. They don't have the manpower. They don't have the money. They don't have the resources or the knowledges to fuck with the United States. They never will. They never fucking will. And people sit up in here and say, oh, we're supposed to be afraid of other countries. Why? Why? They're not afraid of you. They're not afraid of you. Why you gotta be afraid of them? All I'm saying is keep believing about this government. And one day, by the time you're 60, 70, 80 years old, it's gonna slap you in your face. And you're going to wake the fuck up and realize I've always been right.
It was
So the other party, which is George W. Bush and Dick Cheney's cabinet and all that, in other words, wanted them to shut the fuck up, agree with all them, knowing that it was wrong, just so they can get more funded by the DOE, or more funds so they can go to a war that they should have never been there in the fucking first place. That's the same shit I told you guys about how they made a fucking coup to go and take Guatemala. Yeah, you guys know how they took Guatemala? Yeah, it was a fucking coup. United States was behind that shit too. Like I said, every fucking war we've been in is because the United States makes lies about other countries to fit their fucking way to get into a war that they shouldn't have to. Most of it because of population, so they can kill 1,000, 1,000,000 people or something. So that way they can make more room for other people. Because if you haven't noticed, every time we've gone to war, how many people come back alive? And how many get buried? And then you see all these people getting pregnant, having babies, more population. The government sits up on the news talking about, well, the economy this and the economy that. And then how they fix it? Let's fucking make a virus and give it to people. Oh, that didn't work? Let's send them to fucking war. Oh, that didn't work? Let's make another war after another war. Here's another virus. Here's this virus. Oh, okay, let's just mandate everything. It's mandatory everything. Yeah. I'm seeing real goddamn clear why I hate this fucking government.
Away from the White House, away from Congress, leave them alone, ask them what they think, but don't tell them to rethink their positions. Because then you come up with nonsense like we saw.
The administration had decided very early on that Saddam should go, and that in itself is not a bad goal. But of course, everything depends on how you do it, when, how, where, with whom, etc.
Preemptive war by its very nature is something that is entirely new to the United States of America and to what we call the old Western Alliance. You go back through history, and at the Peace of Westphalia in 1648, a group of nations that had just killed most of each other off
1648,
decided that this
wow.
isn't quite the way to do it, and they came up with a set of laws that we've all lived with fairly well since then, which doesn't much allow for preemptive war.
Delay in decision and inaction could lead to a massive and sudden horror.
It simply makes no sense to wait any longer.
Take action.
Yeah.
Before
That black
it's too late.
bitch,
We
this
will not
dumb
wait.
motherfucker, this piece of shit,
When we see a threat,
and the other
we deal with
motherfucker
those
you'll pop up
threats
there.
before they become
All
imminent.
liars.
It's too late if they become imminent.
As President Bush has said,
M.2.
time is not on
Cheney.
our side.
It was a rushed NIE. It was done, I believe, in 3 or 4 weeks, which is really fast for that. It wasn't done earlier, from what I understand, because the Bush administration didn't want such a document that had caveats.
That's why they never asked for a comprehensive national intelligence estimate within the intelligence community on this particular problem, because they knew the intelligence community didn't agree on any of these issues.
The national intelligence
Wow.
estimate is really about, 5 major players, but 10 intelligence agencies in total weighing in.
10. All 10 of those right there and agreed to go to war that we didn't have to go to. Yeah. That's your government, people. That's your government that takes your tax money and tell you we're gonna make you a fucking poor and make you be a slave for the rest of your life, and you never own shit.
On the basic
There you go.
situation with weapons of mass destruction. It only happened because the head of the Senate Intelligence Committee, Graham, called for it. And so I think the Bush administration resisted having an NIE, and then once it was out, selectively picked what was useful to their argument.
Most of their qualifications were simply filtered out.
The sanitization
Wow.
of the original estimate was not true to its real meaning. All the modifiers were dropped off.
It was a prosecutor making a case using what benefited his case, ignoring evidence that would undermine his case, and there was no defense attorney to give us the other side.
And the end product used by policymakers, particularly in its
Does not
discussion
agree.
with the American public, were much more forceful than could have possibly been when originally written by CIA,
And then they
DIA,
add
or
words.
State Department's intelligence and research.
It was a bizarre warping of the intelligence process, and they thought they
Holy
would be able to get away with it because who's going to see the classified version? Well, later, several.
Didn't I say something about why they want to classify everything? Now you see why everything's being declassified, because every time they want to make a new rule, make a new law, they want to do this or do that. They want to classify everything so the public can't see what the fuck they're doing. This is why.
Months later, they released parts of the classified version. They thought no one would notice.
So this was not a case where the national intelligence estimate was driving the war. This was to provide an excuse after the fact.
Going to war based on intelligence is yet another example, I think, of intelligence simply not being able by nature, by definition, to live up to that kind of requirement. You may produce intelligence that could keep you out of a war, but I doubt that you'll ever get 1, 2, 3 reports of intelligence that will in any way allow you to go to war.
They didn't have the permission nor the reason or proof or evidence.
There are Al-Qaeda in Iraq.
Saddam Hussein cavorts with terrorists.
Secretly and without fingerprints, he could provide one of his hidden weapons to terrorists or help them develop their own.
Well, the war really had absolutely nothing to do with terrorism. There was no connection whatsoever between Iraq and the secular regime there and the religious fanatics who perpetrated 9/11.
They wanted to believe that there was a connection, but
Did you seriously? You just heard what that guy just said? There was no connection between to the Iran or Iraq, or none of them of anything up until 9/11. It's just getting real interesting.
The CIA was sitting there, the FBI was sitting there, I was sitting there saying, we've looked at this issue for years. For years we've looked for a connection, and there's just no connection.
Saddam was not a maniac or a fool. He was a terrible villain, yes, but he was not going to sacrifice his own life and the future of his country to stupid adventures with terrorists who had completely antithetical views to his.
It is just inconceivable to anybody who understands Saddam Hussein and understands the nature of highly centralized dictatorships generally, that dictators would want to give up control of their most potent weaponry. Because once you've given up control, you have no control. So you can't say to Al-Qaeda, you will use this or you won't use it. The decision on whether or not they're going to use it depends on what Osama bin Laden does. Do you want to entrust your fate to Osama bin Laden and his nihilistic ways? I don't think so. Saddam Hussein is a psychopath and a sociopath. He was not an irrational being in the sense that he was going to ensure his own demise by doing something like that.
Al-Qaeda has had total contempt for Saddam Hussein himself. He's been a socialist. He's been very harsh. He's treated Islamic leaders, Islamist leaders, extremely harshly.
They was against each other.
And we have very
it
good
wasn't
intelligence
friends
on this. Was not part of the picture of terrorism before we invaded. Saddam Hussein and bin Laden were enemies. Bin Laden considered and said that Saddam Hussein was the socialist infidel. These were very different kinds of individuals competing for power in their own way, and Saddam Hussein made very sure that Al-Qaeda couldn't function in Iraq, that terrorists couldn't function, except for the small northeastern quadrant of the country where there was an extremist group, but he had no control over that. It was near the Iranian border.
There's no doubt that Ansar al-Islam is a radical Islamic terrorist group with ties to Al-Qaeda, but they operate in a part of Iraq that is not controlled by Hussein. The leaders say they seek to overthrow Hussein and his government.
They are our enemy. Really, they are also our enemy. We believe that Saddam Hussein, him and his group and his ministers also, they are outside of Islam's zone.
And the ties with Al-Qaeda was just a scare tactic to exploit the trauma, the very real trauma that the American people have felt ever since 9/11, and to associate that trauma with Iraq. As you know from the polls, most Americans believed that Iraq had something to do with 9/11, and that was a very successful, very deliberate, and very unethical and immoral operation on the part of the PR people of this administration.
Oh, that was planned too, as what he just explained to you.
We now know that Saddam has resumed his efforts to acquire nuclear weapons. Among other sources, we've gotten this from first-hand testimony from defectors.
Access to emigres and defectors with more direct access to these programs.
From 3 Iraqi defectors, we know that Iraq in the late 1990s had several mobile biological weapons labs.
It was only after defectors told us about it. Their inspectors were in the country.
The most important information that inspectors have ever gotten on what's going on in Iraq have come from defectors.
We know about that capability from defectors and other
A
sources.
recent defector stated that as recently as August of 1908, that's while inspections were still going on, a formal order was issued to proceed with the nuclear program at full blast.
Our strategy is to bring to the world the danger that Saddam poses in his current state.
Without doubt, he is developing weapons of mass destruction. Without doubt, he has chemical and biological
United States
weapons.
got to him.
And without doubt, for 30 years, he has been trying to acquire a nuclear weapon.
The usual scrutiny of these kind of guys was just not done adequately.
This guy, this guy in that suit sitting on that chair, really listen to what they talk about, how all this got started. Listen, because then you'll find out he's a key part of it too. Just listen.
That there was this attitude of let's find the smoking gun, let's find the evidence, rather than let's look at what's out there and weigh the evidence.
They wanted to believe him. It goes back to contacts that originated as early as the 1990s with individuals like Dick Cheney, like Paul Wolfowitz, like Richard Pearl, dealing with Ahmed Chalabi. They became enamored of this fellow who dressed like a Westerner, talked with a British accent, and appeared to be upper crust, and therefore was quite believable.
And everyone in Washington was believing them. And I thought people had really somehow checked out of reality in order to go to war.
Always smiling.
It was a war fever that had taken over.
These people wanted to get back into Baghdad. They couldn't defeat Saddam Hussein, but they knew that U.S. military power could. So the worst of these offenders, who would be Ahmad Chalabi, who's been in exile from his own country for 20 to 30 years and is clearly not a hero under any definition of heroism to his own people, sold the Pentagon on the idea that Saddam Hussein did have weapons of mass destruction and he must be stopped.
But they were bringing forward individuals who they claimed were either high-level military or scientists with access.
They were looking for money, first of all, because Chalabi was paying money.
Supplying money shouldn't be a surprise. That's how informants are dealt with in the spy business.
But there was no effort to check their bona fides. None.
Every checkable piece of that intelligence that's come to public notice has proven to be false, or at least self-serving in the extreme.
We had the
U.S. paid $1 million for useless intelligence. Wow, 9/30/2003. Holy shit. That's wow. They had informants. Well, didn't they say they had intelligence from the British saying that Iran had all these nuclear weapon sites and all this shit, and then that guy that's sitting on the chair is always smiling, but they just said that he also has a British accent as well, and he's an informer, and then they say that he was exiled out of Baghdad. And that other guy was also exiled too. So was this a plot to get the United States to get involved with shit that was under false tenses? To get in a war over 20 years of bullshit that we shouldn't have been in? Over these two clowns being exiled? You've got to be fucking joking me. Are you really fucking joking me? Like, wow.
Congress approve and appropriate money for the Iraqi National Congress of no telling how much they were taking off the top for themselves.
You get all kinds of people who want a reward and have nothing to offer. And many ended up with Chalabi because they would believe anything bad about Iraq.
It was phony evidence. It was based on intelligence we had from Iraqi exiles who wanted this country to attack Iraq so these people could then take over in Baghdad and establish their own regime.
We have to go back and examine just the role that defectors played throughout the entire inspection process.
If inspections work, then you don't overthrow Saddam Hussein.
How does somebody like that, I don't
February
know how
14th,
to describe
2004.
him, get into a position where he's determining U.S. policy?
Senior members of the Department of Defense gave him their thumbs up. Yeah, his information was coming into the White House to people like Dick Cheney through the Office of Special Plans. So it was coming in through an avenue that's not traditional to the intelligence community and wasn't open to being vetted or reviewed. You had Chalabi himself admit that they didn't mind providing false information because it helped them to achieve their goal of removing Saddam.
Nobody in Iraq will defend that regime, including the military, both the regular army and the Republican Guard.
Our liberation would not have been achieved without the determination of President George W. Bush and the commitment of the coalition, at the forefront of which stand the people of the United States of America and Great Britain. The Iraqis will never forget your courage and sacrifice on our behalf. We are here today to declare that a new Iraq is born, an Iraq where dignity, justice, and human rights are assured for all citizens.
There is no risk of a breakup of Iraq, that there is no risk of a civil war.
I stand before this assembly as a representative of free Iraq. To all those here who helped us in our struggle for liberation, we extend our gratitude.
The Iraqi opposition will ensure the continuation of its institutions and to reestablish democracy and the rule of law.
He said, I got what I wanted. I got my war. I'm back in Iraq. And if you people relied on my information, you're stupid.
So he played the United States like a fucking puppet. Holy shit.
Every year, by law and by custom, we meet here to consider the state of the Union. This year we gather in this chamber deeply aware of decisive days that lie ahead.
Bush presented so many distorted beliefs, estimates, and guesstimates that it appears that he was misleading the public and the Congress.
Saddam Hussein had the materials to produce as much as 500 tons of sarin, mustard, and VX nerve agent.
Any sarin that they were making in 1990, 1991 had a known shelf life of about 2 months. I have confirmed this with inspectors and analysts who were deeply involved in the 1990s analyses. Well, if you made it 12 years ago and it had a shelf life of 2 months, it may not be safe to drink, but it isn't sarin nerve gas any longer. And there's no way the agency could not have known that.
U.S. intelligence indicates that Saddam Hussein had upwards of 30,000 munitions capable of delivering chemical agents.
What the fuck?
Inspectors recently turned up 16 of them, despite Iraq's recent declaration denying their existence.
And then they tried to use the fact that inspectors found 16 of these as evidence that thousands more existed. And again, I mean, it's, as a methodology, it's a very weak way to predict anything. And I think it borders on propaganda to argue that the small number that have been found by inspectors imply that, in this case, over 29,000 exist.
Saddam Hussein has not accounted for the remaining 29,984 of these prohibited munitions.
But this way, Bush administration officials either routinely said or tried to give the impression that if Iraq had not fully accounted for all of a certain item related to chemical or biological weapons, then it must be there. And that's not at all what the inspectors said or found.
He hadn't accounted for that material. He's given no evidence that he has destroyed it.
And the inspectors could go in and say, okay, we can prove, yeah, you destroyed that set in this way or that set in that way, but these others, we can't prove it. And that doesn't mean that they didn't destroy these warheads or whatever the item was. It just means Iraq hadn't been able to prove it.
If Saddam Hussein had admitted to the Iranians, to the Syrians, and his own people that he had been so intimidated by the UN inspection and sanctions process that he'd given up all that, they probably would have torn him limb from limb.
Saddam Hussein had material sufficient to produce more than 38,000 liters of botulinum toxin, enough to subject millions of people to death by respiratory failure. He hadn't accounted for that material.
Revealed its biological weapons program, particularly its ability to make botulinum toxin, and therefore it was an open issue. But again, it doesn't mean that what the inspectors found was evidence that Iraq possessed that.
Our intelligence sources tell us that he has attempted to purchase high-strength aluminum tubes suitable for nuclear weapons production.
I think there was very little doubt that the centrifuge tubes, so-called, were nothing but rocket motor tubes to go into M81 style artillery rockets. They certainly have all the specs for that.
Nuclear experts, for instance, from Lawrence Livermore's laboratory's Z division, the experts on centrifuge enrichment, came out and said, no, you couldn't enrich uranium using these tubes. They're not compatible.
Well, I saw it as a deliberate attempt to take information and selectively take information and try to basically say Iraq poses an imminent nuclear threat and therefore action is absolutely necessary. And I felt that was absolutely wrong.
The International Atomic Energy Agency confirmed in the 1990s that Saddam Hussein had an advanced nuclear weapons development program.
The administration showed photos of nuclear.
So you telling me everything George W. Bush said out of his fucking mouth, they fact checked and found that it was all lies? Are you fucking kidding me? Wow.
Nuclear or former nuclear weapon sites in Iraq, pre-1991 nuclear weapon sites, claimed that new construction showed they were ongoing nuclear weapons production sites. Complete nonsense.
The most troubling thing about the fact of the distortions and the misleading statements that Bush gave Congress is that it is a federal felony. It's a crime to mislead and distort information and present it to the Congress.
The British government has learned that Saddam Hussein recently sought significant quantities of uranium from Africa.
When Secretary Powell addressed the UN about weapons of mass destruction, he deliberately left out any reference to attempts to buy uranium from Africa.
I didn't use the uranium at that point because I didn't think that was sufficiently strong as evidence to present before the world.
CIA officials warned members of the president's staff the intelligence was not good enough to make the statement Iraq tried to buy uranium from Africa.
In October for the Cincinnati speech, not for the State of the Union, but the Cincinnati speech, George Tenet asked that this be taken out of the Cincinnati speech, the reference to yellow cake. It was taken out of the Cincinnati speech because whenever the Director of Central Intelligence wants something out, it's gone.
How to get back in?
It's not a matter of getting back in. It's a matter, Tim, that 3+ months later, people didn't remember that George Tenet had asked that it be taken out of the Cincinnati speech, and then it was cleared by the agency.
Oh, wow. So now you're removing actual documents. Oh, so that's
the British government has learned that Saddam Hussein recently sought significant quantities of uranium from Africa.
Just 16 words in the State of the Union address, words that we now know were misleading. And retired career diplomat Joe Wilson tried to warn the administration of just that nearly a year before the speech.
I received a call from the CIA in February 2002, and I was invited out to talk to those people within the broader intelligence community who deal with 3 different subjects: Iraq, uranium, and Niger. I briefed them on what I knew about the uranium business. It was during the course of that briefing that they said that they had received a report that had piqued the interest of the Office of the Vice President, and that report was of a purported memorandum of agreement authorizing the sale of uranium yellowcake, somewhat enriched uranium, from Niger to Iraq, and it was a document that was executed by the government of Niger. They asked me if I would be willing to go out and take another look at it and talk to people I knew there. I left there telling them that if they wanted, I would be able to free up my schedule. They subsequently called me and said, please do. I'd spent the 8 days there drinking mint tea and talking to everybody there was to talk to who knew anything about the subject matter in Niamey. And I'd come back persuaded that it did not have happened. One, from a business perspective, because of the way the consortium was structured, you just couldn't do it without a lot of people knowing. And 2, the way the government bureaucracy was structured, you could not make the decision without a lot of people knowing, and if you made the decision would be reflected in a series of signatures on the documents. And if the documents did not contain those signatures, they could not be authentic government of Niger documents.
The President quoted a British paper. We did not know at the time. No one knew at the time in our circles. Maybe someone knew down in the bowels of the agency, but no one in our circles knew that there were doubts and suspicions that this might be a forgery. Of course, it was information that was mistaken, but it was a relatively small part of the case about nuclear weapons and nuclear reconstitution. It is also the case that the broad picture about Iraq's programs.
I figured out it was fucking forgery when the motherfucker just explained to everybody how it was forgery. And this dumb asshole want to say that she didn't know anything about it. Bitch, you're the one that changed it, you fucking retard. Yeah, she's a two-faced ass bitch too.
Was a picture that went very far back in time.
Now, given what I knew about where the question had originated, and given what I knew about the way the government works, I knew that people in her circle did know.
Based on thorough analysis, the IA has concluded, with the concurrence of outside experts, that these documents, which form the basis for the reports of recent uranium transaction between Iraq and Niger, are in fact not authentic.
Numerous French
False
words
papers.
were misspelled in the documents.
Wow.
One of the letters was signed by a Niger official who had left office 10 years ago. Several dates in the documents did not match the day of the week. Several of the names and titles of officials mentioned in the documents were incorrect.
We all know that the
Forgery.
documentation on Yellow Cake from Niger was a fake, but why doesn't anybody say who did it, who faked the document? And why don't we take another look then at the same stream of consciousness that was prevailing at that moment on the aluminum tubes and even the trailers, the bioweapons trailers that were so ballyhooed. At that point, someone's got to say, who is putting this intelligence out there and why? And I don't think that question's been answered, and maybe because the answer is known and it's not a pleasant one.
Who was it that asked for this review of the Niger nuclear material question? It was the vice president. Mr. Wilson, former ambassador, was sent to Niger in response to the vice president's questions about this issue. So assumedly, the vice president got a report back in response to his question, and that report contained the Wilson memo, his assessment of the situation.
The question remains, who did the document? Who forged the document? And why? You know, the list is possibly short. Somebody ought to be able to work on that.
Wilson says his family is the subject of a smear campaign by senior administration officials. They deliberately leaked his wife's identity as a covert CIA operative, damaging her future career and compromising past missions, after he criticized the administration on Meet the Press and in the New York Times.
The White House hatchet men came out and started writing articles in which they basically said that Wilson, well, the first one came out and said that Wilson told the truth because he's a Democrat. Well, set that up as an argument. Democrats tell the truth, ergo Republicans fill in the blank. Then a couple of senior administration officials leaked to Bob Novak that my wife was a CIA operative involved in the weapons of mass destruction business at the CIA.
Senior administration officials is a key to being it's typically the president, vice president, cabinet officers, and the top of the White House. They've gone out of their way to get that information out. Not only told Novak, told Time magazine, they wanted that information out. Now, that's against a statutory law that prohibits the identification of CIA operatives.
What you're doing when you expose a CIA officer of any name, you're basically taking their entire career and flushing it down the toilet.
It also has the potential of placing that person in jeopardy because of their operations, and their own operations and people they have operated with in jeopardy. So it is a very vengeful act against the ambassador to try to hurt him by hurting his wife's career, if not wishing her physical damage. I have never seen a dirty trick that could be a hit.
A president of the United States and an administration who has come to office on a platform of restoring dignity and honor to the White House. What they did was neither dignified, nor was it terribly honorable, nor was it germane to the issue at hand.
Everything used to be in the Washington Post, New York Times.
First of all, it should be noted that Colin Powell's speech to the United Nations was theater, a masterful theater, effective theater at the time. You know, here's a man who has tremendous credibility, who presents himself to the Security Council, to the American people, to the international public, and stares the camera in the eye and says he knows Iraq has weapons of mass destruction.
Leaving Saddam Hussein in possession of weapons of mass destruction for a few more months or years is not an option.
My first visual impression here, watching George Tenet, the head of the Central Intelligence Agency, back there as a prop, almost like a potted plant, as if to say that the Central Intelligence Agency stands behind, or in this case sits behind, everything that Colin Powell says. That was a terrific blow to the morale of the Central Intelligence Agency analysts.
Saddam Hussein has chemical weapons.
Chemical weapons, although they can be very deadly in a subway station or something like this, are not really strategic weapons. They are weapons that can kill 50, 100, 200 people, but in fact they won't devastate you the way a nuclear weapon in New York City or Chicago or someplace would be a deadly blow.
Saddam Hussein has used these horrific weapons on another country and on his own people.
He used weapons Saddam Hussein did back in the 1980s when the U.S. administration, the Reagan administration, was actually supporting him and allowing him to import the chemical precursors for that. Donald Rumsfeld, actually, as a special envoy for Ronald Reagan back in those years, helped, open the door for better relations between Washington and Baghdad.
Colin Powell spoke of thousands of liters of anthrax that were unaccounted for. He said they're probably hiding it. And then he held up a little vial of white powder. And he said, a couple teaspoonfuls of white powder like this, if launched against American cities, could kill thousands of Americans. If he was truly to reflect the Iraqi capability, he would have held up a bottle of Diet Coke and said the Iraqis produced anthrax that looked like this. And it has a shelf life of 3 years. The last known production batch came out in 1991. So even if Iraq was hiding this brown sludge liquid, it would be useless today.
Just a few weeks ago, we intercepted communications between two commanders in Iraq's 2nd Republican Guard Corps.
If you know anything about Iraq, they have very strict communication security procedures. So you would never have military personnel speaking in the clear over a radio about sensitive subjects.
On the left is a close-up of one of the 4 chemical bunkers.
There were never any chemical weapons in that facility. I'm intimately familiar with that facility. I've inspected it a number of times. Other inspectors have inspected it many more times than I have.
To believe they were proof is to believe the statement that Iraq would put its crown jewels in the one building or one of the few buildings that either the United States will bomb first or the inspectors will go to first.
The truck you also see is a signature item. It's a decontamination vehicle.
The UN weapons inspectors knew that the trucks shown by Colin Powell in those photographs were fire trucks, not decontamination trucks.
I would have to comment here on Secretary of State Colin Powell's debut as an imagery analyst. It was highly embarrassing for those of us who know something about the business. We couldn't tell whether this was an honest mistake by those who now do the imagery analysis, who now report to the Secretary of Defense, unlike our day when they reported to the Central Intelligence Agency, whether that was the case or whether perhaps Colin Powell was being set up.
From our point of view, I mean, we do all kinds of analysis of satellite imagery. You can't form any conclusions on what's going on inside the building. They could have been building tractors. They could have been doing nothing inside that facility.
Now look at the picture on the right. You are now looking at 2 of those sanitized bunkers. The signature vehicles are gone. It's been cleaned up, and it was done on the 22nd of December as the UN inspection team is arriving.
Contamination vehicles, they rotate from site to site. And so the absence of the vehicle on the second photo, which we know is the 22nd of December, could just as easily be explained by the normal rotation, because you didn't tell us the date of the first, and it was several weeks before.
We have noted that the 2 satellite images of the site were taken several weeks apart. The reported movement of munitions at the site could just as easily have been a routine activity as a movement of prescribed munitions in anticipation of imminent inspection.
We have first-hand descriptions of biological weapons factories on wheels and on rails.
These mobile labs that you've been shown to be nothing more than hydrogen generation facilities.
Here you see both truck and rail car mounted mobile factories.
When you take a look at the mobile labs that Colin Powell discussed, he didn't put up photographs of these facilities. He put up artist renditions of these facilities. Why? Because we have no proof they exist.
This video of an Iraqi test flight obtained by UNSCOM some years ago shows an Iraqi F-1 Mirage jet aircraft. Note the spray coming from beneath the Mirage. That is 2,000 liters of simulated anthrax. Iraqis continued to visit bin Laden in his new home in Afghanistan.
George Tenet's analysts had spent a year and a half of torturous investigation, torturous analysis, to see if there were ties between Al-Qaeda and Iraq. They found none.
Our conservative estimate is that Iraq today has a stockpile of between 100 and 500 tons of chemical weapons agent.
So the Secretary of State is telling us that our conservative estimate is that Iraq possesses between 100 and 500 tons of chemical weapons agent, enough to fill 16,000 warheads on the battlefield. Where are they? What happened to them? My suspicion is that this is not our conservative estimate, that this sounds very much to me like our neoconservative estimate.
Iraqi denials of supporting terrorism take their place alongside the other Iraqi denials of weapons of mass destruction. It is all a web of lies.
It was a masterful performance, but none of it was true. Where are all these weapons? Where is all this VX? Where is all the anthrax?
Probably one of the low points in his long and distinguished service to the nation.
The old weapons inspection process was a little more than a game.
They concealed, denied, deceived.
Return of inspectors would provide no assurance whatsoever.
To eliminate by inspection is, quite frankly, a fool's errand.
On the contrary, there's a great danger that it would provide false comfort that Saddam was somehow back in his box.
Reality is that between the original UNSCOM inspections and the UNMOVIC inspections, you destroyed, with those inspections, 90 to probably 95% of the Iraqi arsenal. The first Gulf War destroyed almost nothing. And, post-war U.S. battle damage assessments confirm that.
The weapons inspectors were effective. They forced Saddam to get rid of this stuff. They had that country under control.
By 1998, at the latest, those inspectors had discovered most of the weapons of mass destruction, and the Iraqi programs at that point were essentially at an end.
Before the war in Iraq, the United Nations inspectors told us that Saddam Hussein did not have nuclear weapons capability.
Ironically, the major effect of the invasion of Iraq in terms of weapons of mass destruction has been to show that the inspectors were right all along.
The inspection regime worked. It was the most intrusive inspection regime in history, and it worked. And at the end of the day, that's another reason why we went to war for nothing.
Went to war for nothing. And your government tells you there's terrorists. There's terrorists that are doing these things to the United States. All these countries hate us. All these countries want to terrorize our wonderful country. And you find out in this video, in the 45 minutes of watching this, you found out these motherfuckers already forged documents. Lied multiple times, over and over and over and over, even under oath. Lied to the people, lied to their own people, forced others to do things they didn't want to do. And people say that they love the government. I don't think so.
These maniacs who are encouraging our enemies, weakening our troops' resolve, and confusing the American people.
Well, you shouldn't listen to these protests because they're obviously helping Saddam Hussein. Who would have guessed that you could build a massive international peace movement on the protection of Saddam Hussein?
The media is culpable for the misleading of the American public. They bought into the Bush administration's rhetoric.
They don't understand that there is moral violence and immoral violence.
They came out on TV and told it.
God bless this president. He is truly a great man.
Reducing troop morale, confusing the American people, and emboldening our enemies. They are absolutely committing sedition or treason as far as I'm concerned. There's a huge difference between a personal opinion and an opinion which degrades and debases our military at a time of war. It's a disgrace.
I don't believe that mainstream media acted responsibly in regards to Iraq. You know, I was belittled. I was called a traitor. I was called crazy. Paul Azan of CNN accused me of drinking Saddam Hussein's Kool-Aid for making accurate statements in response to aluminum tubes.
People out there accusing you of drinking Saddam Hussein's Kool-Aid.
If I'm an ideologue, then I'm a Republican ideologue. I'm actually a fairly conservative person who voted for George W. Bush. But I don't allow my ideology to get in the way of the facts and the reality of my duties and responsibilities as an American citizen.
It's a tendency, if you want to kill the message, to go after the messenger. If you can discredit the messenger, then you discredit the message. Or if you can make the story about the messenger, then people forget about the message.
And I think it's so unfair to try to silence debate and criticism by attacking those who say something with which you disagree.
The media is supposed to be the fourth estate, but they decided to completely climb in bed with the administration on this.
In a way, the administration constructed a box where, and that box had all the information that the administration wanted the media and the public and Congress to have.
What they would do is you'd have the Iraqi National Congress taking bogus defectors, the information from them, giving them to the Pentagon, and then the Iraqi National Congress then giving them to the journalists. And they said, if you don't believe us, the Iraqi National Congress, call up the Pentagon. So you had this circular reporting. And you had the New York Times admitting that it was using one source for all of its information on weapons of mass destruction. And it was, you know, self-affirming by going to the Pentagon, which to put this stuff on paper.
It was a lot of exaggerations, partial information, sometimes the whole information, but on balance, a very one-sided view of Iraq's WMD program.
And a lot of these stories the journalists didn't want to look into because the editors told them to run with. We're going to be supportive of the administration. It's the patriotic thing to do.
I think that there was, on the part of the media, too much of, in a sense, getting into the upcoming war and not enough look at, do we really need to go?
There were some journalists out there raising the alarm bells. The Seymour Hirsches, the Walter Pincuses of the world. But unfortunately, those great investigative reporters, they're usually exiled when the heat is on. And it's only after the fact that they end up being praised and given the pats on the back.
The excitement was to make the case to go to war.
Edward Snowden did that, and everybody called him a fucking traitor. But if it wasn't for Edward Snowden, half the fucking Americans wouldn't even remember what the government was doing back then in 94 and 98 and 97 and shit like that. If it was in 2013, if he didn't come out and say what the government was doing in 2013, fucking people would not even know that you guys was being spied on by the government. I mean, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that you're getting spied on. I mean, just put it this way. I've got so many crimes racked up on my fucking record. And it's not just, you know, the ones I went to prison for. I made a lot of threats as a kid of fucking people up and blowing people's houses up as a kid. Because I love playing with fire. I love blowing shit up. Well, the thing of it is, they wanted to mark me as a terrorist. Yeah, they wanted to mark me as a terrorist because I was known for blowing shit up, and you know, I blew up the science lab, you know, and that was just because the teacher pissed me off. But I didn't think it was gonna work. But yeah, I was known for doing stupid shits, you know. But it's just crazy. It's just crazy that, you know, most of the people, and you see all the ones that was talking on here that said former this or former that, CIA 20 whatever years and stuff like that. And then they're actually on the news coming out and saying this shit. That's a lot of whistleblowing. But they're all former, you know, they all worked for the government. They all was in it. They all made decisions, you know. And I mean, I'm not saying the CIA is great. Don't get me wrong, they're not. They've been in a lot of crooked shit too. They was ones that were behind the fucking Guatemala coup. So yeah, let's not get with those.
Titillation of a WMD hitting us, not the titillation of or the conflict of attacking the administration.
Both the Washington Post and the New York Times had very conservative editors that supported the White House on this.
Yeah, yeah, that is true though. That is true. The White House, the fucking Washington Post and New York Times was always posting and putting shit in fucking newspapers all the fucking time. They couldn't keep their mouth shut about the fucking 2.8 trillion gold bars beneath the Twin Towers. They couldn't keep their mouth shut about it. They talked about that shit in the New York Times and the and the Washington Post all the fucking time. All the way up until 9/11 happened. And when 9/11 happened, you didn't hear a goddamn thing ever again about 2.8 trillion gold bars beneath the Twin Towers. Not once you ever heard about it. Until what, 15 years later, 20 years later, then they want to say, oh, well, we don't know where 2.3 gold bars are. Like, yeah, you're so full of shit.
This, I'd like to say, I was very prescient. I knew what the others in the intelligence community were saying. I didn't. And I'm one of the ones who also, I drank the Kool-Aid. But early on, I felt that there were some real dangers going into the war. And I tried to get an op-ed into various major newspapers. And the word kept coming back. Nobody wants to hear this because we're going to war.
Wow. So the papers was in on it too. And they call me the crazy motherfucker. That's the oil rig. Blew the fucking oil rig up. Let it burn. See, they said something about they was over there for the oil, the well. But if they was over there for the oil, then why was you blowing up all the fucking oil rigs? Why was you taking all the oil wells off the top of the oil caps? Why you lit fire to every fucking oil well they had? If you was over there for the oil. Yeah. We didn't need their oil.
The people of the United States and their friends and allies will not live at the mercy of an outlaw regime that threatens the peace with weapons of mass murder.
His regime has an active program to acquire and develop nuclear weapons, and let there be no doubt about it.
We know for a fact that there are weapons there.
They are so full of shit.
People who, for many years, had advocated going after Saddam Hussein, and they pushed this hard. And of course, raw intelligence data can be interpreted in a lot of different ways, as I'm sure experts have talked to you about. And so there were a group of people, I think, that were adamant that this was the right course to pursue.
I think it was great for it to be recorded, be put out there, see how great your country really is. Including them being audited the way they are being done right now. I'm glad it's being done. Frankly, I'm tired of the bullshit fucking lies within the government. In the country, period. Motherfucker can't say something correctly and can't speak the fucking truth out of his mouth, then he should keep his fucking mouth shut. And that's just how I think about shit. I'm tired of motherfuckers lying all the goddamn time about bullshit. People's families dying and shit, kids dying, people dying all over the world for bullshit. Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. There could be some terrorists out there that want to harm us.
We found the weapons of mass destruction.
You know what I mean? There's like the cartel and shit like that, and ISIS and all, and and Al-Qaeda and all that shit. Yeah, those certain type of motherfuckers need to be dealt with. But why go over there and bomb someone's whole fucking country, tear it all the fucking shreds? And then you want to spend trillions of dollars of United States Americans' money, taxpayers' money, to build their city that you went over there and fucked up over some bullshit. When you had a group of people that could have been taken care of, instead you want to mass destruct the whole fucking country so you can spend taxpayers of United States money to rebuild their shit. Because you was in the wrong for fucking it up and killing some innocent thousands of people in wars that we should have never been in the first place, or taking someone's country over bullshit because you didn't give a fuck what that president said. So you want to grow who's got the bigger dick here and want this guy gone. So you're going to make a coup within his country to have him killed. Because you ain't got no balls to go over there and do it yourself, because you can't get involved in that. Because then other allies wouldn't like you and think you're a piece of shit traitor. So you make other countries fight their own people, so then we can get involved later on to put in place what person we want to be the next president of that country, so that president can kiss our ass like Ukraine is to the United States. Come on, let's not sugarcoat the bullshit. Let's not sugarcoat the bullshit. Ukraine's president's kissing our ass because we giving that motherfucker money. We giving that motherfucker aid. We're giving that motherfucker food. We're giving that motherfucker weapons and guns and every goddamn thing else. But that's the reason why United States supposedly isn't involved in that shit. We was involved in that shit a long time ago because of Joe Biden. I mean, look at it. Look, I told you guys about fucking Guatemala. Now, if you remember how Guatemala went down, it went down the same way in fucking Ukraine and goddamn Russia. And look, they're fighting. And who steps in, says the rescue? Oh, United States! Oh, we come save you! Do you know? like every fucking country else. We cause the problems, and then we come in like rescue heroes. Oh, yeah, we help you. Fuck out of here. It's just funny. It's fucking hilarious how the government sits up in here and says the people need you. We don't need this government. This government is a joke. It's been a joke. It always will be a joke. It's been a joke since fucking back in the 1800s. This is 2025. It's still a fucking joke. It's fucking pathetic. But they want us as Americans to be honest to them. They want us to pay taxes and pay this tax and pay that tax and kiss their ass here and kiss their ass there and not talk about how stupid they really are and how disgraceful these shitty two-faced ass bitch motherfuckers that sit in the motherfucking White House and Congress, little rich bitch motherfuckers, they never did shit in their motherfucking life besides lie to motherfuckers and scam people, because that's what the government is a scam. It's a joke. It always will be. And stupid motherfuckers out here still paying their goddamn taxes. Why? Fuck the IRS. They can't do shit to you. Oh, they're gonna take my car. Oh, they're gonna take my paycheck. Sue them. Guarantee you win.
We found biological laboratories.
Everybody knows that Iraq had weapons of mass destruction.
I have every reason to believe that the intelligence that we were operating off was correct.
No question we have said that Saddam Hussein possesses biological and chemical weapons.
We know where they are. They're in the area around Tikrit and Baghdad and east, west, south, and north somewhat.
All this will be made clear in the course.
Somewhat. They didn't even know where they was at.
Whatever duration it takes.
Are you confident that you'll also find weapons of mass destruction?
I believe we will find evidence of the programs of chemical and biological weapons, yes.
How about the actual weapons?
Well, I just don't know. Let's wait and see what...
He said, well, you gonna actually find the actual weapons? They couldn't even find the fucking weapons, nor the chemicals. They didn't even know what location they was in or where they were exactly at. Oh, this is getting good.
The team that's over there.
Actions continue with our new exploitation teams that have been brought in.
And that we will in fact find weapons or evidence of weapons programs that are conclusive.
It is somewhat puzzling, I think, that you can have 100% certainty about the weapons of mass destruction's existence and zero certainty about where they are.
Do you agree? And does it matter whether or not you find them?
Prime Minister, we won't be proven wrong.
This is a process that takes some time, and it will ebb and flow.
One thing we know is that he had a weapons program.
I don't know anybody that I can think of who has contended that the Iraqis had nuclear weapons.
We believe he has, in fact, reconstituted nuclear weapons.
But on the specific issue of weapons of mass destruction, it's going to take time, and we're going to have to be patient.
Over time, the truth will come out.
Now, it's going to take time to find anything because people
will find that we presented a solid case, a case that...
Hey. I just noticed something. You notice all the fucking liars on here, right? All the fucking liars. You notice all the liars, right? What does that bring you back to? Joe Biden, right? Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, Nancy Pelosi, Hillary Clinton, 33,000 email erase. It was from the Russia. it sounds just like it, right? These guys. Now I see where Joe Biden and his little Miss Puffets, got their lines from these guys. Because they watched this video. I mean, they had to watch this video to understand how they're going to lie in 2020, in the 21st century, to people that are more smarter than the ones that was back in, 1920s, 1930s, 1950s. Not saying that they're stupid or nothing. I'm just saying that we're more smarter. And I was born in the 80s, so and I sure do love the ladies. But anyways, yeah, it's, well, if you remember the conversations with goddamn Hillary Clinton talking about she didn't delete 33,000 emails, bullshit. It was the Russians. The Russians took it. Donald Trump is having the Russians do this, and it's like now you got Joe Biden, Nancy Pelosi, and all these little rat monsters, and then you look at these clowns. And you watch the story how these clowns, and then you start putting 2 to 2 together. It's like, I know where they got that shit from. These guys.
Is there, and was there, and will remain there.
So it's going to take a period of time to find the people. I don't think we'll discover anything myself.
Kamala Harris.
3.5 months for new inspections was a rather short time before cooling a day, and especially when we now see that they say the U.S. government
Obama.
That, look, you have to have a bit of patience. These things take time.
I believe that
Hillary Clinton.
We will find the truth, and the truth is, he was developing a program for weapons of mass destruction.
I think what will happen is we'll discover people who will tell us where to go find it.
You're not going to find it simply in a house-to-house search. You're going to find it when people start to talk to you.
It is not like a treasure hunt.
Joe Biden.
Just run around looking everywhere hoping you find something. I just don't think that's going to happen. The inspectors didn't find anything, and I doubt that we will.
More people are going to find out the truth, and the truth will say that this intelligence is good intelligence. No doubt in my mind.
What we will do is
no
find
doubt
the people
in your
who
mind.
tell us.
There
are a lot of people who lie and get away with it, and that's just a fact.
He has not developed any significant capability with respect to weapons of mass destruction. He is unable to project conventional power against his neighbors.
We are able to keep arms from him.
Nancy
military
Pelosi
have not been rebuilt.
Is U.S. credibility on the line over weapons of mass destruction in Iraq?
I'm not exactly sure what that means.
This is getting good.
Depends on the assumptions. It depends on how long the war lasts. It depends on whether weapons of mass destruction are used.
What we have done is we have taken estimates looking at different variables and said, if this were the case on this variable and then on this variable, but there's so many variables that the numbers of possible point answers create a range that simply isn't useful.
Yeah, I'm just not going to get into any speculation about numbers.
We're dealing with a country that can really finance its own reconstruction, and relatively soon.
So the money's going to come from Iraqi oil revenue, as everyone has said. They think it's going to be something like $2 billion this year. They think it might be something like 15, 12 next year. They think it might be something like 18 to 20 plus the next 19 the next year.
I will soon submit to Congress a request for $87 billion.
Why did the administration
$87 billion
dramatically underestimate the cost of this war?
We did not have perfect foresight into what we were going to find in Iraq.
You're so full of shit. You didn't find anything in there. That's why you just blew everybody up.
With the cost of the war rising and the search for weapons of mass destruction going nowhere, the administration turns to David Kay.
This work is being carried out under the direction of Dr. David Kay, a respected scientist
and former UN inspector who is leading the weapons search in Iraq.
We are determined to take this apart. We have a tremendous group of dedicated American men and women involved in this with the best assets of the intelligence community can provide.
Yet Dr. K and his team are making progress.
We have found a large body of continuing activities and equipment. We are surprised by new advances that we're making.
Network of laboratories and safe houses controlled by Iraqi intelligence and security services.
And unlike pre-war intelligence, we don't require someone just to say something. We actually need the physical evidence.
Equipment suitable for continuing chemical and biological weapons research.
David Kay is not going to be done with this for quite some time.
David Kay wants more time. And he says it could take another 6 to 9 months to make a definitive finding.
Administration is asking Congress for hundreds of millions more.
$600 million to fund the continuing search.
We have not yet found shiny, pointy things that I would call a weapon.
Before we can draw firm conclusions, we need to let the Iraq Survey Group complete its work.
We were all wrong, probably, in my judgment. And that is most disturbing.
What did he say?
It's inevitable that there will be an outside commission appointed on an issue of this gravity.
We'll have public hearings, and we will get to the bottom of this, and we will let the chips fall where they may.
In democracy, you have an obligation. Your obligation is to speak truthfully to the public. That's the basis of civility and our belief in our...
But you lied to the public. That's the problem. You lied to the public. And then you just said up there in the little part of your little video there that you is wrong about everything. Now you want to become a whistleblower? And you lied to the people forever? Wow, you motherfucker, where the hell did you go to school at? Dreamland? Goddamn stupid.
Our system of government.
It is going to require an outside effort, probably through an outside commission, to deal with some of these very serious problems.
Because I think explanations are important in a democracy.
This whole episode has caught the White House completely by surprise.
They've become so fearful of admitting error that they stand up and defend things that on their face are untruthful.
President Bush is being pounded with calls for an independent investigation into how U.S. intelligence so badly misjudged Iraq's capabilities before the war.
Having the president holding all the cards, appointing all the people, having everybody accountable to him is a very bad idea.
If you say you're going to war because he has weapons of mass destruction, and you don't find those weapons, it is not persuasive to jump to a second argument. Well, that didn't work, but here I've got a second explanation. I was asked if I would care to try to operationalize some of the comments I'd made about what was going wrong in Iraq. And so I said, if you, among other things, that if you're going to do this, you had to treat it like an intelligence problem, and that is not go looking for hidden weapons, but going looking for the people who would be associated with hidden weapons. Well, what I did is I formed teams for each of the areas, and we formally had hypotheses. Half the teams took a hypothesis that it was there, the other half said it wasn't there, and both followed exactly the same method. If you believe it's there, what is the proof that will, in fact, prove that hypothesis, or what evidence clashes with it? Same thing is true with the teams that took the hypothesis it wasn't there, is, collecting evidence. So yeah, you start with a viewpoint, a hypothesis, an academic would say, and you collect the evidence that will support our challenge. You tell them, go form and discuss with your team a hypothesis and get a strategy for doing it. And I just, I was unsure whether they would come back pro or con. And I really didn't care. And that was intentional because I didn't want to be seen as stacking the deck. And we met every Saturday afternoon, and each team went through a very, it was rigorous, but almost predictable. You started with, here's our hypothesis, here's what we've done this week, here's how the evidence stacks, here's what we propose to do the next week. And there would be a discussion between the groups and myself on each of them of what they were doing. A lot of cross-fertilization. There's a gradual buildup of evidence that forces you to challenge your pre-existing belief and then keeps generating either more questions or generates questions about the hypothesis. For example, give you a real case. One of the first things that worried me was we had a big army running through Iraq in March and April. WMD was not used against them, nor was it found. That's sort of remarkable if they had had large stockpiles. I really believe in the jungle telegraph. Put the word out on the street. Let people know what you're about and what you have to offer, and usually you'll get people coming to you. And I had a lot of money, reward money, and I had green cards or passports to virtually any attractive place in the world. You come to us with weapons of mass destruction, evidence about the weapons, and we'll take care of you. All I had coming to me were fabricators, people who said it but didn't have anything, had absolutely no evidence.
So now he's telling the truth
Iraq
about everything.
was a horrible place in June, July, August, September, October, November. Insecurity, the economy wasn't working, there was violence, there's still violence there. It was remarkable to me and disturbing that in a place this bad, who wouldn't want a golden lifeboat to get out? All they had to do is come with information. I would protect their identity. It was clear to everyone. I would take their whole family. It wasn't a case, you have to leave your family behind. You'll be taken care of, but you'll have to find a new family in California. Well, some of them might like to. But no one bought. And so that worried me. Around a weapons program, if a weapons program exists, you're going to find people engaged in the production, the technology, engineering, design, people involved in protecting the weapons, people involved in moving them, and people involved in preparing to use the weapons. We found none of that. We were running into fewer and fewer leads that looked profitable, and a lot of evidence that stacked up to explain something other than large stockpiles of weapons. I had the habit of writing a personal report back every weekend, which was quite separate than the official reports back saying, this is what it looks, smells like to me. Here are the issues of the week. Here's how I'm proposing I've always found that's a good way to keep people informed of what you're doing. I don't think there was a surprise about the conclusions I was drawing because those were fully and I think completely and adequately reported. I think the surprise would be that you would speak out and say that. I had the privilege, although I didn't always think it was a privilege, of watching a lot of very senior government officials come to agonizing terms about Vietnam and decide not to speak out because they knew they'd never be asked to lunch again. They wouldn't be part of the process. And I think like a lot of people of my age and my generation who were in the government, it's by no means unique to me, just decided that if ever the occasion came, I simply wasn't going to live like that. There wasn't a lunch or part of a process that was important enough.
This committee has a special responsibility to the men and women of our armed forces to look at the pre-war intelligence, because planning for military operations is based on intelligence.
Policymakers take data, they interpret threat, they assess risk.
When you talk about a mushroom cloud, how much more imminent threat could there be?
Skepticism left out of the public white paper of the
Many
CIA.
of us feel that the evidence so far leads only to one conclusion. That what has happened was more than a failure of intelligence. It was the result of manipulation of the intelligence to justify a decision to go to war.
Secret societies have their own rules, and secret societies generally don't feel an obligation to openly and democratically communicate.
Prime Minister Blair has set up a similar commission in Great Britain.
Yeah.
His is going to report back in July.
Right.
Ours is not going to be until March of 2005, 5 months after the presidential election.
Yeah.
Shouldn't the American people have the benefit of the commission before the election?
Well, the reason why we gave it time is because we didn't want it to be hurried. This was a strategic look, kind of a big picture look about the intelligence gathering capacities of the United States of America.
I think every president should have kept on their desk the statement, the carved statement that Harry Truman had, the buck stops here.
The corruption stops there. See, so they've been really cricket since then.
Which there aren't. If there are no ties with Al Qaeda, which there weren't, and which there aren't, or maybe now there are, then why do we go to war? Well, all you need do is go on the web and download Project for a New American Century. There you will find the ideological and the strategic underpinnings for this policy, which was rejected by George Bush I, which was ridiculed out of town in those days, but became the avowed policy of this government and was implemented starting with the war.
I felt in my last year in the Pentagon that I felt there was a great deal of contempt for the constraints on government that our Constitution lays out. And I also felt that there was a contempt for the Constitution, and I only absorbed this sense of contempt by association with some of these senior appointed civilians.
Who are all neoconservatives, who all believe in dominance, who believe in preemption, who believe in the military option as the first resort rather than the last resort.
They have had a very fixed, indeed almost obsessive idea that in fact Iraq is a major actor in the world and a probable threat, possibly a deadly threat to the United States.
This is a group of people who have essentially believed that might makes right, that the United States at this stage of history has unchallengeable power and therefore a responsibility to use it to make the world over in the manner that we, or they rather, think it ought to be made over.
I think behind the basic neoconservative philosophy is a considerable arrogance that American interests are the primary goal of all American foreign policy.
And they seem to have a really serious habit of not being interested in listening to what other people say about this subject.
Now, of course, American interests should matter, but there are enlightened and unenlightened elements of self-interest. And I think in this case, we have determined and defined our interests globally in almost total disregard of what other states want, what their concerns are, how they might or might not be able to contribute. We're on a roll, you're either with us or get out of the way. I find remarkably little interest in the character of other countries, the nature of their problems and difficulties. This is boring, I think, to neoconservatives who really see this as quite irrelevant. What other people, what the political culture of
it's not our business. Really, if you look at it, it's none of our fucking business what other countries are doing to themselves or to other people. As long as they ain't fucking with us, that's what we need to be concerned with. If they ain't fucking with us, then okay, well, let's take care of business. But if you ain't fucking with us, then why do we gotta sit here and have to be giving a shit about what goes on in your fucking country? You know what I mean? I mean, I don't understand why the government wanted Guatemala, why they wanted Cuba, you know, the port, the fucking, I forgot the goddamn water port, whatever the fuck that one is. They want to make it, yeah. They want to change the name for that one too. I forgot the canal, the Panama Canal. They took the Panama Canal, and they pretty much took fucking Guatemala, the United States, right? Now, if it was a strategic move for like invaders or whatever, be on, you know, certain side or whatever, I can understand that point. But I mean, I just don't understand why they take both of those places. I watched a movie last night that I've never seen. Some earthquake movie. Where they use these satellites, lasers, and beam the light out of the sky into the ocean to move the tectonic plates and stuff from trying to fix the world from blowing up or whatever, because they had an earthquake. There was an earthquake that was going on. This diving team is trying to move, World War bombs and shit that was in the ocean, and they was trying to defuse it and this and that, and it fell down into the earth, because when the earth did earthquake, it cracked open, and that bomb dropped off into it and exploded. And when it exploded, it made the tectonic plates more stronger, more powerful, and it was destroying the world. So the government and some scientists and a guy that knew that it was being built programmed to beam down this powerful beam from satellites and shit into the ocean to try to push it back the other way and slow it down. I forgot what year that movie came out with, but see, and then you look at what is that one place that caught on fire, except for all the blue cars and all the blue roof houses that had the houses that had blue roofs on it. What was that? Tahiti or something? That was Tahiti, where they all just like a fucking heat beam came out of the sky and struck them and just burnt every fucking thing, just like that. Unless it had a blue roof on top of the hood, then it was safe. Oh, you guys didn't know about that? Yeah. But anyways, let's get back to this.
What they want, what their people might want, what some of their concerns might be. It's really quite irrelevant because we know what we're going to do and get out of the way if you don't agree.
They said, look, the neocons, we brought down the evil empire of the Soviet Union, and now we're going to bring down Arab nationalism as personified by Saddam Hussein and Bashar al-Assad, and once that happens, you're going to have democracy. The problem is those people have not set foot. If they've been to the Middle East, it's been to Tel Aviv only.
No, I don't think it's an accident at all that so much of the justification turned out to be fallacious, misleading, deliberately so.
They thought they had a place in history. They were going to bring down, obviously, a very dysfunctional Arab peninsula, as well as Iran, and they were going to change history. They believed they won the Cold War. And they said, all right, we won the Cold War because we were tough with the Soviet Union. We get tough with these people, and they're going to become like us.
It is fair to say that the Iraq War was a diversion from the war on terrorism. It certainly meant that people weren't paying as much attention to Afghanistan as they should have, and the resources that might have gone to Afghanistan ended up being focused more in Iraq.
If you attack another country with no justification, people are going to say, wait a minute, this isn't a war on terrorism. This is a war on this is imperialism. This is colonialism, And this is why it's a distraction, because you need the help of these people. If you get this view that the CIA and the FBI are lurking around the bazaars and the souks of the Middle East and handcuffing people or assassinating, that's not the way the world works. You got to have the help of the locals to identify these people and either put them in jail or remove them from positions where they can do harm.
In January of 2002, as I was sitting in the bunker of the U.S. Embassy in Kabul, Afghanistan, and I and several colleagues were sitting around the one little working TV, and lo and behold, here came the infamous statement of the axis of evil, Iraq, Iran, and North Korea. And we all looked at ourselves and went, oh my God, here we are kind of in ground zero of Afghanistan, and Washington's talking in very belligerent terms about these other three countries, and And we don't have Afghanistan anywhere close to being settled.
The only person Saddam was a threat to at this point, as we saw when the army collapsed, was to Iraq. He didn't have weapons of mass destruction. He wasn't scaring anybody, certainly wasn't scaring the Iranians or the Turks or the Saudis or anybody else. It was a state that was on the verge of failure. Now it is a failed state. Failed states cause terrorism. You know, you can name them. Afghanistan, Lebanon, Somalia. Anytime you create a vacuum, it's where people flock to or discontented to fight wars.
So in other words, when you take out the balls of a man to run his goddamn country, because you got this other country that decides they want to invade on false affirmation and shit that they claim to say that isn't true, but they want to invade anyways, so they can get rid of the good guy that's taking care of his fucking job and keeping his people happy and safe. But the United States didn't want that, so they wanted to come over here and create a problem. And now that problem is now dealt with, and now it's turned into a dictatorship where it's like all the other countries they just named just now, that is all terrorism, low lives, piece of shits. All thanks to the United States.
Osama bin Laden had been saying for years, America wants to invade an Arab country and occupy it, an oil-rich Arab country. He had been saying this. This was part of his propaganda. So what did we do after 9/11? We invade an oil-rich and occupy an oil-rich Arab country, which was doing nothing to threaten us.
The only real connection is that having invaded Iraq, we are very likely to make it a focus of terrorism. We are likely to produce what the president has said Iraq represents, namely the central battlefield in the war on terrorism. Why? Because we've sent a lot of Americans into a place where they're sitting ducks for people who think the only good American is a dead one.
Because they created the problem. Like they created the Guatemala problem.
By America.
And the Adolf Hitler
I don't
problem.
care what the intention is. I don't care if we truly want to build a democracy. It cannot be ruled by foreign power.
We, as the one indispensable nation of the world, as we characterized ourselves for so long in the last administration, cannot contemplate that possibly someone else might not like everything we call the American way of life, and that they would, in fact, welcome us into their countries. This may not be the case.
The only tool in the toolbox of the Bush administration is military force. Military force is a very blunt instrument. It just doesn't work. We've created more terrorists in Iraq, and we haven't even solved the problem in Afghanistan.
One of the more ironic effects of the attack on Iraq was to buttress other countries in the conviction of the famous remark by an Indian general after the first Gulf War, when he said the lesson of this war is that if you have to fight the United States, you better have nuclear weapons.
In some respects, it's as if Vietnam didn't even happen. It's as if a lot of our leaders have suffered some kind of historical and political lobotomy. And that's frightening. And every American should be concerned about that, because the United States ultimately is supposed to be an exemplar for the rest of the world. We are supposed to be, in Ronald Reagan's words, that shining city on a hill. Well, that shining city is looking kind of slummy right now in terms of our image abroad, and I think with good reason. We've violated, I think, fundamental principles that have guided this country's foreign policy so successfully since 1947.
You don't want your president to be seen as a hot dog. And when your president gets into a jumpsuit and gets in the back of a jet and lands on an aircraft carrier and then waddles out with his little straps between his legs, and that's not, I mean, you want a sign of kind of maturity and not testosterone blasting through when you're talking about things so fundamental.
That's exactly right. That is exactly fucking right. And that's what it is. This is exactly what they just said. The United States is supposed to be an example for the other countries. And all we're doing is making ourselves look bad. Well, not I look bad. But the government makes the United States people look bad because they want to invade in other countries and to do coups and all this other shit and take over people's other countries for what? See whose balls and dick is bigger than whose? I mean, we already know Ukraine's president is an ass kisser. You know what I mean? Donald Trump told him right to his face he ain't got the balls to do nothing. On live TV. So I mean, if you didn't watch that YouTube video where Donald Trump told Ukraine president, you come back with a peace deal or don't come back at all, you ain't got the balls or the money to fight. We gave you the money. We gave you the guns. Donald Trump admitted it. Go watch the goddamn video. Watch the video of Donald Trump telling the Lewinsky he ain't got no fucking balls. It's sad. It's sad when Donald Trump tells that short piece of shit he ain't got no balls, and then kicks him out of the White House. How did you ever run your country if you let another man in another country tell you how to run your country? I mean, look at it. The United States is running the Panama Canal, running the fucking Guatemala. Now they want to run Ukraine. I'm just saying. Ukraine's gonna come in there and say, yes, we want help. And then thousands of military men and women are gonna go to fight over there in Ukraine against Russia. If it ever gets there. I don't think Russia really wants it, but I mean, like everybody else says, like everybody else country says, the only way it's ever gonna happen is with the United States is you have to do nuclear warheads and shit like that, and most countries don't have it. Most countries don't have it. That's why they can't do nothing. Nobody wants to go against the United States because they don't have the power and the manpower to actually do it. Now, if it was nuclear, oh yeah, guaranteed. I mean, it'd be a fucking all-out button-pushing motherfucker. But it just, nobody wants that. And that's why nobody's ever even had the capability or ever getting missiles to us. Yeah, they're trying. Yeah, plenty of countries are trying, but I mean, when they got countries that have faculties, iridium plants that are exposed and blown up, and they're trying to contain it, and people are, in a ghost town and ghost cities, yeah. Maybe you shouldn't be fucking around with it, with uranium, or some chemical that can fuck people up. But it's just crazy. I mean, they just admitted it, saying we should have never been there. And it's all about who's got the bigger dick. And it's all lies. Everything was built on lies. Everything was built on lies. It's still being built on lies.
Fundamentally important as sending a nation to war and sending young men and women to their deaths.
There is a sense in Washington now that you can't raise objections to this because you're not supporting the troops in the field. I would rapidly point out that unlike almost anybody I know that holds office in this country, I've had two sons in uniform, both of whom have been in combat, and so I don't have to take any nonsense from anybody, nor will I.
Mark Twain's definition of patriotism is patriotism is supporting your country all the time and your government when it deserves it.
Well, I don't think it's patriotic to stand by and remain silent while your country stumbles into disaster.
Patriotism is the last refuge of scoundrels, and I think these are scoundrels. They have no argument now. They have no defense for what they did. The country is in a terrible international security situation that I think is perilous. So they're attacking the patriotism of others.
Having been an insider, I know that the insiders don't have it all right. They make mistakes, and indeed, there's more likely to be mistakes, and there's more likely to be misjudgment if there is no criticism.
It was Jefferson who said that our kind of government is not based on trust. It's based on, in fact, suspicion.
Supporting the Constitution, understanding what's in the Constitution, caring about the Constitution. That's why we don't have a king, because we have a piece of paper. So I think that is patriotism.
It's not just those of us who've been privileged to serve actually in the government who are the patriots. It's every citizen who respects and honors the fact that we have such a wonderful country.
To suggest that if you have a
I don't
different
give a fuck
viewpoint
about
than
the
any
government.
given administration, or if you're not supporting the president in policies that may be highly erroneous, I don't see that as patriotism
I'm not a
at all. In
Democrat
fact,
nor
I
a
would argue
Republican.
that any patriot with integrity is going to speak out if he or she feels that we're on the wrong course.
It's not unpatriotic to demand that Congress upholds its constitutional responsibilities regarding the declaration of war. It's not unpatriotic to be very upset, vocally upset, when Congress abrogates this constitutional responsibility by transferring war powers authority to the President of the United States, as they did in October of 2002.
Listen, when you guys were working NASDAQ and the dot-coms, I was out in Iraq trying to get rid of Saddam and almost got killed for it. And besides, almost going to jail. So it doesn't take a whole lot of courage for me to come out against the war, and I did at the beginning, but I was studiously ignored.
When we did the first Gulf War, when I came out of Baghdad in 1991, I met with the President of the United States, I met with the senior leadership of both parties, and the one thing that sticks with me to this day is the extent to which each one of them explained to me in very emotional terms the extent to which they had to plumb their consciences to come to a decision on how to vote on the use of force authorization. It had been a moral decision on their part. It had been one that had kept them up at night as they thought their way through this. We owe our soldiers, our sailors, our airmen, and our Marines nothing less before we send them to battle.
Sometimes the true patriot takes the unpopular course, but helps their country avoid mistakes. And even if they can't persuade, at least they tried.
For me, America is this amazing land of opportunity, of beauty, of idealism, of hope. It is a beacon to the world. It's a place of fantastic people. And what infuriates me more than anything else is that this administration has systematically slandered, libeled, blackened the image of America to our friends and allies around the world.
Having the authority and
Sure
the ability
have.
to go and wage war is a very, very
Sure
solid
the
thing.
fuck have.
And it needs to be done with care
still
and
doing
with
it.
deliberation and with genuine forethought. And I think that none of that was present in the lead up to this entire debacle that we now call enduring freedom.
Freedom built
the emperor
on
has
bullshit
no clothes,
lies.
you have to have the presence of mind and the courage to stand up and say, the emperor has no clothes.
Well, you don't have to have the courage to stand up. You have to have you have to have a right or no mind frame of is it right to do something correct or is it to do something wrong, knowing that it's wrong. It's not the fact that you're gonna do it or not do it. It's the fact that it's right or fucking wrong, you stupid motherfucker. It's common sense. That's what the fuck that is, you dumbass. It's none of this, oh, let's, should we say this or should we not say that? Oh, you're gonna tell somebody something, you're gonna tell the fucking truth. You don't tell half the truth and make up bullshit lies about other shit. You tell the whole truth. Or just keep your fucking mouth shut about it. You know what I mean? Like, really, I mean, I dislike motherfuckers that, you know, I mean, I care about the country. I don't give a fuck about the government. I really don't. I don't give a fuck about the rules or regulations, what I can and cannot say or do, because they don't mean shit. They're all a fucking lie. They've been alive before since 1980s. How you supposed to believe a country that's been lying damn near your whole fucking life? Come on, man. I just don't understand it. I really don't. I really don't understand it. But that's just one of the videos. Now, just if you watch another one, I don't know, YouTube will fuck around and take the video down. I guarantee they're gonna take it down. But I don't see how they can take it down. If they take it down, then they have to take all the other ones down from everybody else. If they do that, I mean, because then they'll be violating my rights, saying, "Oh, well, this is copyright." No, it's not copyright. This is the fucking truth. I'm just watching a fucking TV program. You know, that's all I'm doing. It's educational, you know? So and it is, it's educational. So I mean, it's educational to learn the truth without the bullshit lies. But I mean, the CIA was in a bunch of shit too. So I mean, I don't know. I'm ready to make another YouTube channel, but I'm gonna use it for government exposure, and I should just start doing all my videos for talking about government over there before I get this channel fucking ripped up and fucked off. To be honest, I don't know. I just felt. I mean, cause it's okay. So Blueberry, if you're in the and watching the video, did you get the 2 videos or 3 videos I sent to you from TikTok? I sent them right before I got online or before I went live. I don't think you probably watched them, but those videos was the ones I was talking about. Um, shit, I don't remember what the fuck I was talking about. And I mentioned those videos the other day. I just don't remember what I was saying. Um, but those I got to go back and watch those other 2 videos. It's on TikTok. Um, it was about something I was talking about in my video, and then I said I was gonna put it on here somehow. I sent it to Blueberry, so I don't know if he got it or if he's watched it or. But he could probably tell you more than I can. I don't know. At this point, I didn't really watch all of it, so I don't know. But yeah, I just figured I'd make a video on that. I was gonna play a video game, but I forgot which one I wanted to play. So, but I had my daughter here all day, and my daughter showed up here this morning, so I had her until about 6 o'clock. Yeah, she left around 6 o'clock. NASCAR started around the truck race started around 6 o'clock, so I watched that one until it got over. I thought the truck race wasn't gonna get over until after 8:30, so I made the video, after 8:45. But if I would have known that it was gonna be over at fucking 8:10, I would have done it for 8:30 or 8:20 or whatever. Or shit, I could have been on here at 8 o'clock. But yeah. I was watching the race. Then I had my daughter. Cooked dinner and shit like that. She wants to stay for the 3 months that she's out of school. She wants to stay. She wants to stay with me. I told her I don't have no problem. If it was all right with her mom, then I'm fine with it. So if she does get to come, and everything, it'll be for the 3 months when they're out of school. So I'll have her if her mom lets her. I don't know. So hopefully she comes. If she doesn't, then she doesn't. But I did tell her that my dad wanted to meet her and meet my son and stuff like that. So that he'll be here the first 2 weeks of May. So I'll have my dad for 2 weeks. I think I'll be streaming, but because he's not a type of person that wants to sit around, because he worked in the oil field for his whole entire fucking life, I guess. You know what I mean? So 15 to 57, I mean, that's pretty much his whole fucking life. I mean, he wasn't really there for me as a kid. He spent more time at work. And that's great, That's great. But now that he's gonna be 61 or 62, it's like, now I should spend time with my 39-year-old son, and this and this and this. And I'm like, yeah, we can kick it, I guess. I mean, I'd rather be streaming instead of kicking it with someone that, doesn't really give a fuck, But it is what it is, My mom's the same way, so. Well, I can't say her. Well, she's my mom, but legally she's no longer my mom. So, out of 8 in 2001, so 24 years ago. I'm actually, well, when I turn 21, then I'm property of, well, myself, because my mom don't have no rights, and my mom took my dad's rights when I was 10, so he doesn't have no rights. My mom signed her rights to the state of Texas in 2001. I was incarcerated for 8 years, well, 6 years in TYC, 2 years state prison, felony charge. So, in other words, when I turned 18, I wasn't the property of Texas, nor was it the property of anybody else. Wow. Well, that's pretty fucking cool. But anyways. Yeah, I mean, if you really look at it, I mean, who am I property to? No fucking body. Well, unless you want to say I'm a property to the government through Social Security number, But by legally, turning 18 as becoming an adult, and then 21 as a legal adult. Yeah, I'm not property of nobody. No parents, actually. Really, if you really look at it, you know what I mean? If you really look at it, there's no way. Because neither one of them, my parents, have their rights. They don't have no rights. So what could they say? Nothing. That's pretty awesome. I didn't think of that way. Shit. But yeah. Anyways, I was gonna play something. I just don't remember the fuck I was gonna play. That's the whole reason why I decided to do the chat one, because I didn't know what the fuck I was gonna play. First of all, I've been high since my daughter left. I'm not driving nothing. I'm not just figured I get that, say that. Watch the video. I guarantee my fucking video. This video will be taken down. I guarantee you. Watch it. It'll be taken down. Watch. And then I'm gonna have to prove that I watched it from another source on YouTube, because that's where the fuck I'm watching it from. You know. So I mean, it's not like they can't really. Well, this is false information. This is misleading. No, asshole. Nope. It's not misleading, nor is it false. But anyways, I already ate dinner. I made lasagna. Yeah, I made lasagna. Well, I put it in around 5. Around 6, her mom picked her up. So it wasn't done yet. Yeah, it wasn't done. It was done yet. So about 30 minutes or so after. Because I didn't have it on 350. I had it on like 150. And so it wasn't done for the hour that it was in there. So when I turned it up to 350, because I thought I put it on 350, but evidently I didn't. So it wasn't getting cooked. And it was taking too fucking long, so it had to be at 350 or 400. And so it wasn't on neither one of those. So was it getting cooked right? But it's fully cooked now. Well, I already ate it, so. Yeah, I already ate it, but it was fully cooked when I ate it, and it was delicious. And then I got high. Okay. So no, I was not high when I was making dinner, because my daughter was here. So no. I don't get high or drink when my kids are around. The reason I found out the reason why she hasn't been around, though. Um, her her mother's brother passed away. Yeah, he passed away in January. So that's the reason why my daughter hasn't been here, I guess. It's life goes on. She had this little kitty though. My daughter had a little bitty kitty and everything, and she had it in a carry box, whatever thing is, and food and all that shit. She played with the kitty for a little while. She asked me if she can do the dishes, and I tell her, okay, yeah, if you want to do the dishes, all right. So she did the dishes. And then she's like, "Well, can I stay with you for when summer comes, when I don't got to go to school?" Yeah, okay. When is that? I told her, I said my birthday's next month. She goes, "You're old, Dad." I said, "I'm not old. I burnt my finger. I burnt my finger on the fucking oven." Yeah. I didn't put the fucking mitten on, and I grabbed the damn rack. Well, the bottom of the glove grabbed it, and then I was trying to put it on. My finger touched the rack, the tip of it here, on the top, before I got the glove on there. But yeah, so my fingers all. It's probably gonna be all blister. Yeah, it's all gonna get all blister. But dinner was delicious. Yeah, dinner was delicious. What is your goat milk percentage? I don't know. I don't drink goat's milk. I eat a lot of cheese, sour cream, milk, ice cream, cheese. So I have no idea. Yeah, I haven't had a clue. Man, I'm fucking toasted. I watch Matt Malone. I talk crazy shit with him all day. He was in one race. He got a 5X. He fucking left the goddamn race. And he said, fuck those spaceships. He said, fuck those spaceships on fucking iRacing, right? It was those LMP2s and the LMPs and shit like that, the GPTs and all that. The ones that I was bitching about when I was doing iRacing. I said those fucking spaceships. He said the same shit earlier. He got off, he quit that race. He had a 5X. He was mad as fuck because they kept fucking giving they kept either pushing him off to the side or they give him a 2X or 4X. And I can understand it. It aggravates, very irritation because they're very fast and they don't respect nobody. They shove people out the way. And he said it just like I've said it plenty of times. Then he got into another race. It's hilarious because I was in there watching him, and I made a discussion about something, And then out of the sudden, he just blew, man. He just blew and said, well, Grand Reaper, there's some things you just can't say on YouTube and Twitch. And I'm like, damn it. I said, yes, I know, man. I'm just giving you a hard time. I fucking pissed Matt Malone off. Blew him up. Because I tell him, I go in there and I tell him all kinds of crazy shit, right? Like, this is the conversation that got started earlier. So I go in there and I ask Matt Malone, I said, what do you think about the spaceship Elon Musk rescuing the two idiots that supposedly that was in space? He comes and says he says, oh no. So he reads it out back to the chat, right? And then he makes his opinion on it. And then so I wait for someone else to say something ridiculous and stupid, right? Because I'm starting conversations. Then other people start butting in on Twitch and YouTube saying crazy shit, right? You know? Because I start the conversations. He reads it in his chat. He reads it in his chat. So these conversations get started, right? I fucking go around. They was talking about, Matt said some shit about someone's rights, right? So I'm like, okay. He want to talk about rights. All right. So there was this guy in there that was being all flamer, you know, you little fruit, you know, whatever in there. And so Matt started saying some shit about it, right? And then some other people got into it. And the only reason why anybody mentioned anything about some shit, you know, is because I was making comments or trying to start a discussion about, you know. And so when I got the conversation to start going, then other people started butting in. And so the conversation got on to flamers and homosexuals. Because I started the conversation. And then someone said something about rights or freedom of speech or this and this, right? So I was like, okay, all right, I'm gonna go in there and I'm gonna type in oh, it was about women. It was about women, right? It was about women, talking about how women are so great and faithful and this and everything and everything else. And I was like, okay. So my thing was, so let's talk about, why did the women want equal rights as a man when women are still stripping on poles today? Why did they protest in the 20s and 30s and 40s and 50s about women's rights equal to be man, have equal rights as man, you know, and this and this and this about women's rights and shit, you know? And so I posted it in there. And then all these, then the conversation got flipped to freedom of speech and rights this and the Constitution that. Man, conversations got flipped in that chat so many times. I did it to him a few other times without even noticing that some of the discussions or some of the shit that I post in his chat, other people actually read it. They actually read it. And then they start commenting back on it. You know? And then when he figures out why his chat was talking about iRacing and the racing experience in iRacing. Now it's gone to iRacing to government to prison to, well, what do you think about this conspiracy and that conspiracy and this conspiracy? And what do you think about women's rights and why did gay men come out? Why did people come out to be to say they want to be gay? Did they get a trophy or something? And he read that on the chat too. And then that's when the whole gay shit started going on, because I was like, okay, answer this question, Matt. So I'll type in, Matt, answer me this question. So I want to know, did the homosexual people, gay people, did they get a trophy for coming out saying they're gay? Or did they get some kind of reward? What was the point? Why did they come out in the first place? Did they collect something? Did they get a reward for it? You know? And I sent it. Well, then we had issues with Matt reads it on the fucking, they're in the chat, right? He reads it. So when because I'm typing it on YouTube and he's streaming to Twitch and YouTube, right? So when he reads it off from YouTube, people on Twitch hears it. Then they're like, oh, keyboard warriors and shit, and so you got YouTube and Twitch talking about the conversations that I'm starting. So then Matt tries to change the conversation back to ASUS equipment or racing equipment, or he's gonna be racing here or racing there, doing this, doing that. It's like every time I come in there, and I always say Matt, because I'm not talking to his chat. I'm actually talking to him directly. And I say, Matt, on top of the news story today, how do you think such and such, or such and such, or what do you think about this? And that is your top of your news hour. Thank you. And I send it. And he fucking reads it. Because I caught him a few times talking about, well, this is the top of hour. Top of the hour we're gonna do this race, and the bottom of the hour we're gonna do this race, and the middle of the hour we're gonna, So I got to the point where I start doing, well, this is the top of the hour news. So in other words, I'm making fun of him by saying it's a top of the hour race, and I'm just using the top of the hour news. In other words, pissing him off and then asking him stupid questions all at the same time. just to see if we can get the chat started with other conversations besides fucking cars. I do that shit every time I go in his chat, dude. Like, you go watch some of his chats. I'll be in there typing on YouTube. And when he's not answering shit from YouTube, then I jump in there on Twitch and watch him on Twitch and type in there on Twitch. He'll answer a few of those, and when he stops answering those, I go back to YouTube. So I troll him all day. Yeah, I troll him all day. But I always tell him, hey, I'm just giving you the shit, man. And I always put LOL on it. See you tomorrow. Check it out. Check it out. In 8 hours, no, in 7 hours, because he's an hour ahead of me. And 7 hours from now, he's going to be live on YouTube and Twitch. He's going to be doing the 12 hours at Seabrings. You know where I'm going to be at? I'm going to be in his fucking chat. Matt, good morning. Top of the hour today. It's windy, cold, and wet. Watch out for the space cars on your left and right. And send. Oh, this dude's he's eventually gonna ban me from his chat. I'd be giving that poor man so much trouble. Because I start conversations. You know, because a bunch of people are talking about iRacing, you know? And it's boring. So I wanna have a discussion what I want to talk about. So then I put it in there, and then and then they fucking hook onto it like a bunch of leeches, and it just takes off. Oh man, I'm terrible. I told Matt, I said, hey, I'm going to live stream later on. You're welcome to come watch. He said, oh no, 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 no. So, but yeah, that's what I do. I terrorize Matt. I terrorize him. Oh, that's not a good word to use. Oh shit. They do another update. Oh, they did do another one yesterday. Forced everybody to log back in, huh? Yeah, forced everybody to log back in. Or is there nobody on? Oh, there are people. There it goes. Give it a minute. Give it a minute. I want to go over here and see something. The next one is at 1 o'clock. I wanted to do it, but there's one at 1, 6, and 10 a.m. It's a 12-hour race. But I'll get DQ'd. I'll get DQ'd driving by myself. I think there's somebody else streaming it on. Yeah, somebody's probably streaming it. Yeah. Friday, Saturday. These are the times. Yep, somebody's probably streaming it. Oh, there, yeah. Yep, there's one right there. There's one there. There's one there. There's one there. That's in a different language. That's in a different language. And I believe this one might be in a different language as well.
And tires as well.
Yeah, I think
Tires
your
are
tires
at the
are going
edge
in
of
now.
their fucking limit.
Don't have to necessarily hear it or see the gaping other chat. Just watch the human being. Oh, he's in the Porsche. This guy's in the Porsche. Yeah, we can only watch this guy because he's the one that's streaming it. I didn't think he was actually driving it. I thought he was just watching. I thought he was just only watching. He's actually driving it. Crazy. Yeah, he's crazy. So he's in first. Yeah, he's in first. Huh. He's got a 19X. Holy fucking shit. He's got a 19X. Holy shit. Yeah, it's right down here. Look, right here. Right there. Bing, 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 bing. 19X. That the alien car went by. The spaceship. There's a Seabrings. I wanna do one of the races, but I don't know. Driving probably wouldn't be the issue. Um, One night I sleep. I should have gone to sleep instead of trying to be up. So that'll definitely be a factor. Then not having a teammate race with me, that'll be another factor. Um, because it gets real tired driving for fucking 12 hours, man. No cautions. Yeah, no cautions. So it's not like you can go into the pits, go take a piss or something real quick. It's no, you wait until someone crashes you that forces you to go to the pits so you can get repairs while you take a piss and take a nap for, depends on how long the repair is. Say if the repair is an hour long, and yeah, I've sat in the pits for 3 fucking hours for repairs when I race this track by myself for a 12-hour race. I was tired. Um, but I was being ran over by space cars. And that was a big problem for me. So when they actually took me out and actually put me in the wall, um, yeah, I sat in the pits for fucking 3.5 hours of repairs. So I went to sleep. I did. I went to sleep and everything, for about 2.5 hours, and then I got up and you know, um, jumped back into the race and almost done with repairs. So I made some breakfast and shit like that, and yeah. I mean, you just have to wait. If you're doing it by yourself, you're doing a 12-hour race by yourself. I mean, you just have to wait until fucking they crash you out or something. Like they crash you out or something happens and you get in a big ass massive wreck with 10 tons of people. You know, not you going out there looking for it, but I mean, if it happens, it happens. Then you can take a piss and a shit and get something to eat and take a nap and while you're waiting for repairs. Unless you had another driver that could drive for you for 3 hours or 6 hours and you drive the other 6 hours. I mean, it's possible to drive 6 hours by yourself. Um, I would probably say run every 3 hours, take a leak, and then jump back and do another 3 hours, and then take another leak, and then do another 3 hours, and then take another leak, you know. do your last 3 hours and finish out the race. But that's if you had a teammate. Now, if you don't have a bladder issue and you can hold your piss for 6 goddamn hours, then that's great for you. You know, then you can race 6 hours, and then you can let your teammate race 6 hours while you taking a fucking nap for 5 hours, waiting for his ass to finish the rest of the fucking race. You know, and then jump in there when he has to take a piss. You know, like emergency. You know, he got to take a piss for emergency or whatever. You know, that's a different story. But as soon as he's done with the shitter or the pisser, come back in, give him the seat, you know, and let him take over. You know what I mean? Like, it's just common sense to do it that way. Or you can do like most people, stick a catheter up their fucking penises and and piss in a fucking bag all day. Or or you can have a toilet right next to you. You know, just close your little camera lids, you know, close the door, you know, go with business, and, you know, back out and ready to go, you know. I don't know. My toilet's upstairs. So, me doing a 12-hour, if I didn't have no neighbors, I'll just open the door and piss out the fucking door, eh? But see, what he's doing right now, he's doing on the basics. When he's probably done doing with basics here, he's gonna go probably take a piss or eat or something. Wait for his turn to get back into the car. Yeah, wait for his turn to get back in the car. Let me get off of that. Other than that, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I probably won't play nothing. I probably won't play nothing. I just decided to have a discussion. This video probably won't go through. It'll be blocked. I guarantee it'll be blocked in territories. They might just take the motherfucker down, you know. Who knows? I give him less than. Well, how long is it? 3 hours? I give him less than an hour. And they'll probably have this motherfucker banned and taken down. Watch. Man, I'm fucking baked. I can't even keep my eyeballs open. I'm pretty fucking baked tonight. Yeah. But anyways, if you go watch the other videos on the rest of that discussion, then you see the rest of it. Did I go to sleep when I got off here this morning? No. I've been awake all day. That's why I'm not gonna stay on tonight. Cause I'm going to bed. When that clock says 12, I'm going to bed. I'm gonna go to my bed and go to sleep. Yeah, I sure am. But I just figured I'd do a chat today because I really don't know what I was gonna play. I had my daughter all day watch NASCAR. So. And the discussion of NASCAR. First lap, number 17 in the trucks. That dude, I don't know what him and the 9 and the other two jackasses decided to take it 4 wide and on the first lap. I mean, clearly that was just a big mistake. You know, and they got a caution on the first lap. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Number 17 was an 18-year-old kid that caused the accident because they went 4 wide on the first lap. Like they passed the fucking start line in 4 wide. Ah, you know. So yeah. And they can no longer blame it on Haley Deegan, okay? Motherfuckers can no longer blame it on Haley Deegan saying Haley Deegan is a bad driver. Because Haley Deegan is no longer racing the trucks. You know who is racing the trucks? The girl that's in the 5 truck. And she is fucking hot. I mean, besides, not really having a set of boobies, but not the likable size that I like, okay? But the size that others like, you know. Me particularly, I like to have the bigger boobies. But yeah, I just didn't understand why they went 4 wide in the first place. I mean, a lot of wheel spinning on the top row. The top lane was mostly wheel spinning all fucking night. So I mean, they had a lot of basic issues. Nothing really serious. But they can no longer say it was Haley Deegan. And the other one, Tony, whatever her name is, she's actually a real good driver too. But I mean, other than that, we'll see. We'll see what happens tomorrow in the Xfinity race, and then we'll see what happens on Sunday and the Cup race. So I'll stream after. Well, yeah, I'll stream after NASCAR's over. Cause I'm gonna watch a 12-hour. Yeah, I'm gonna go troll Matt Malone for 12 hours. No, I'm not gonna go troll him. I'll be nice. um, but I told Dempsey that was racing with him tomorrow. I told him, well, if they get crashed out tomorrow, well, just let me know. We can make a race together and we can jump in there and do a 12-hour together. Me and Dempsey. This other guy that I follow on Twitch. So hopefully I can do a race tomorrow. I wouldn't mind it. He knows how to drive. He's not crazy and shit. Well, he is crazy, but man, I am fucking stoned. Yeah, cause I don't smoke all day. When I have my kids, I don't smoke. When I do smoke, oh man, I'm like a shoo shoo train. like a Thomas the Choo Choo train. Oh shit. I was looking at Wreckfest 2. I was looking at Wreckfest 2. They had their their early access out. They had their early access out. Fuck a duck. Oh, look, Steam actually wants their work right. Look, it's only $24 and it's new. Early access out now. Oh, look, it even gives me that. No thanks. I'll wait until it goes down. And then we get it. I thought about doing the Final Fantasy series games, but I don't know. I thought about doing the Kingdom Hearts video game as well, but I don't know if you guys like Kingdom Hearts or something like that. They got tennis. Yeah, I'm not getting up and doing no motherfucking tennis. Ooh, they got an update for this one? Oh man. Keep strolling for more recommendations. Oh, I'm strolling. What does that say? Look, you can get iRacing for $10. That's one time fee. What, for a month? I got it for a year at $70. $75. I think I seen this game somewhere, but I'm not too sure where. It's not. It looks like Gran Turismo, but it's not Gran Turismo. Is this the one with all those fucking cars or the semis that they drive under, and they try to look all cool and shit, you know? Yeah, they try to look all cool driving underneath semis and fast traffic and shit like that. Or is it a knockoff game to Need for Speed? Look like a knockoff. Yeah. That looks like a knockoff. Well, that's wonderful. No, thank you. I don't need a knockoff. Alright. Let's keep strolling and strolling and strolling and strolling. I thought about doing the flight simulator, but man, that's a lot of fucking download. And then you gotta buy a bunch of content. And then you can't fly high as fuck. Because then you crash everywhere. I thought about Avatar, but I don't want to pay $70 for a fucking game I can finish in a week. I thought about I thought about fucking I thought about man, I forgot what the fuck I was gonna say. Fucking hurts. Right in there, it's just killing me. Something's going on there. But I'm gonna get off of here. I will be on with another video. Maybe if they don't take this fucking video down. Yeah, if they don't take it down. Or if I don't have to fix anything. Cause you know how these sons of bitches are. Oh, yeah, you talking naughty about the government. Yeah. No, I only talking nice. Only talking nice. I'm not talking dirty. Let's see. I guarantee you they fucking hit me with something with it. I guarantee you. Watch. When I get off. When I get off, I give them about an hour. Yeah, when I get off, I give them about an hour. Or maybe. They're gonna say, "Oh, that whole 45-minute video. Oh, it's gone. I'm gonna take it all." Shit. Damn it. And they will too. They sure the fuck will. If they don't like it, they'll take it down. That's why I was like, that's why I don't watch a bunch of shit on my stream. Because anything I click on, they fucking want to take it down. But If it happens, that's what happened to it. So if this video, this 3 hour and 30 minute or 3 hour and 40 minute video is still up and hasn't been fucked with to maybe an hour or 5 minutes or some shit, yeah, then yeah. But if it been messed with, yeah, they did something with it. But I'm gonna get off of here. I got some sharp pain issue going on over here on the in this area.